Okay, everybody, we'll make a start. Can everybody hear me at the back? Okay. Yeah. Thank you for coming along today. You saw my colleague Anne Archer yesterday for your introductory session to library search and to search strategies and referencing. So what we're going to cover today is moving on from that, using that as the basis, imagining that you've taken your question, you've broken it down into keywords, into key phrases, you've thought about all different kinds of alternative ways of saying the same thing, and you've started looking in library search for some books, e-books, and a few journal articles, just to get you started with your research, get some background reading, see what kind of keywords you should be using to focus in on your subject area. So that's the refining your question and the finding evidence part of this slide here. What we're going to do today is just move on in finding evidence to look at alternative places that you might need to look for the different types of information you need. So most of you will be aware that your books will give you the background. I think Anne spoke to you about journal articles, giving you more up-to-date information. We're going to explore today some of the different types of data and statistics, legislation, other types of information that you might need, and how you'd go about finding those in our resources. The next thing that we're going to do, once we've had a look at that, is we're going to see how you would follow evidence. So once you've actually found a really useful paper, you've identified a really useful researcher or individual that you want to follow up, see what else they've published, how you can use the resources to actually go about following the evidence, leading you onto different areas of study, and the most up-to-date information on your particular topic. And then with staying organised, Anne's already mentioned referencing an endnote to you. And so all of this together, these two lectures and the workshop, will work together so that you're all set up to start with your research questions. Okay, so just looking at a few of the types of specialised information you might be looking for. Journal articles are going to probably take up the most part of your bibliographies. Original research journal articles are really what your lecturers are looking to see in your reference lists. When you're looking at journal articles, there are a couple of different types. There's the original research, and then there's also review articles. You can limit your search in library search and in the other databases to look specifically for review articles. And these are really useful if you're quite new to a discipline or a research area, because it'll give you a list of names of the type of people who are publishing and researching in that area, and so you can focus on those individuals and follow them up from there. Conference papers, that's the very latest information about projects and initiatives and trends, things that haven't yet come to the end of a project, been written up as a journal article, but people present at conferences to show what they're working on right now on their projects. So I'll show you today how you can focus in and find conference papers for that latest information. Standards you'll need in your professional practice, so you'll be working with standards and patents information, and again we've got lots of resources available to you for that. Business information, if you're looking at the shipping industry and you need statistics, you need information about particular companies, you might be following up on an industry as a whole, supply and demand, you want sector information, you want to look at shipbuilding companies in general, and I'll show you today how you can do that. Maps, we have a particularly useful resource here at the university called Marine Digimap. Has anybody used Digimap before? No, not seen that one. So it's a service that you register for, and it gives you access to maps and coastal data for the whole of the UK. So you can see all of UK waters, you can see different layers of detail and plans about coastal areas. So I'll show you that, and you can use maps in your research as well. I don't know if anybody's heard people refer to grey literature, or you wonder what grey literature means. It's basically literature that's unpublished, in an unpublished form, but it might be useful to your research questions. So it's things like dissertations and theses, which can be really useful to you, even if it's a PhD level piece of work, because it contains a literature review which you can use and focus in on particular publications, key papers, things that you need to follow up on. Other unpublished things can be government reports, technical reports, things that come out of organisational bodies about environmental management, that type of thing. And I'll show you today how you can get hold of that grey literature as alternative evidence for your research project as well. So with all of this available to you, lots of things to discover, everything is listed on your subject guide. So if you haven't already, go from the library homepage under subject support, click on Marine Science and Technology, and you'll find your subject guide. So I'm going to do that now and just take you through a few examples from the subject guide. So when you land on this, you get the welcome information. Most of the time you're going to click here on Find Marine Books and Journals and use this as a starting point for your research. So we link there to library search, which my colleague Anne Archer has taken you through, and we also focus in on some particular e-book collections that you might like to focus in on from the very beginning, and I believe Anne showed you Novel as one of the key resources for your subject area. So you can go and take a look at Novel from there. Today I'm going to come across this box on the right hand side and just work through a couple of the databases with you as an example. This presentation is being recapped, so if any of this is a bit far away, you will be able to go back to the recording afterwards and see exactly where I've clicked on the screen. So here under Journals, Key Databases and EJ Collections, I'm going to click here on Compendex. Has anybody here already used Compendex in the past? No? So that's good. So this is one that you're definitely going to need to use after today. So it takes me through to the library search record, and I click on View Online to connect. So it's called Compendex. Various people sometimes call it Engineering Village. It's the same database. And the fact that Internet Explorer has now stopped working isn't helpful. I'll try that again. Here we go. Okay, we're in. So this is Compendex. You'll see from the very beginning, you can use this Engineering Village Compendex resource to look specifically at the Compendex database and or Novel as well. I'm just going to untick Novel, so I'm looking specifically at Compendex. The reason I'm doing this is because that gives me extra options of the type of resource I want to focus in on. So I just look at one database at a time. So I'm in this, and I've got my search boxes here, and I can start putting in the words that I've used from my search strategy. So the things I've taken from my question, lots of different alternatives I might have thought about. So I'm going to look for pipeline riser, and I'm also going to have a look for fatigue. And what's quite nice about this database is it tries to match the terms that you put into the search boxes to the thesaurus that it uses behind the scenes. So it's trying to guess what would be a useful term for you. So for fatigue, it recommends fatigue of materials. So I can click on that and include that in my search. I do get the option here to search specifically the title, the abstract, for authors, etc. I'm just going to click on, leave it on the default as all fields, and then it will search everywhere for me for those things. Down here in the advanced options, this is where you get to concentrate on particular document types. So as I said before, most of the time you'll be using journal articles, but if you want to follow up on the very latest research in something, conference articles and conference proceedings will be where you want to look. So I'm going to keep this for the moment as all document types. Leave the date range, but I could, if I was doing a piece of research that concentrates on a particular time frame, I could play around with the dates here. And I'm just going to click on search. So it goes off and finds me my results list, and you can see it's found 176 different results on pipeline risers and fatigue of materials. I get the options here on the left where I can add in extra search terms, so I could go specifically into a type of fatigue. I can look for authors, particular authors, and so on and so forth down this side. I also get the option there to again limit by certain document types, and you can see that Compendex as a database has lots and lots of conference proceedings and articles for you to take a look at. I'm going to, for now, just click on journal article and click on limit to just look for journal articles. And what I get is my long list here. I can click on the title of one to get the abstract, see where my search terms have appeared, how they've been used. I can look at the controlled terms and see if there are any other keywords that I might take and borrow and apply in future. And I can click on this Find at Newcastle University button to see if we have the full text. So it links through to our e-journal collections, and you can see that we do have China Ocean Engineering, and I've got the link there that will take me to the PDF. So that's journal articles. If I come back to my results, and I get this little breadcrumb at the top that allows me to return to my results screen, I'm now going to take off the journal article limit. So I'm looking again at all my conference papers and my journal articles together, and now I'm going to concentrate just on conference articles. Now the reason I want to do this is because I just want to show you a couple of things that can happen when you're searching in Compendex, because so much of the content is conference articles. Where you see this green full text button, that's where you would press and get through to the full text as it's been indexed by Compendex itself. So I can see there that I've got the full PDF available for that particular conference paper. For some, because this database is telling you about what exists out there in the world, but not necessarily what we have full text access to, I can click on this Find at Newcastle University button, and you'll see this screen that says, sorry, we can't match it to any physical resources. This is because it's trying to find this particular conference proceeding in our electronic holdings, and it can't match the two. So at this point, lots of students get frustrated, turn away and think we haven't got that. What it means is it just hasn't been able to index it in Compendex and link it through to our e-journals. So what I need to do to double check and see whether we've got this conference paper in full text is copy the title and explore our other conference paper resources. So I'm just going to come out of here. That's Compendex. I've found that it exists. I know I want to read it. I just need to go back and see, we haven't got it through Compendex, have we got it through any other provider? So I'm going back to my subject guide. I'm clicking on Find Other Relevant Marine Resources. and I'll see a box here that's all about conferences. So as it mentions here, you can search in library search, you can search in particular databases, or you can link through to one of these particular resources. So OnePetro, if you haven't tried this before, is one of the best places to get hold of our conference papers. So let's just paste the title on Pipeline Riser Failure Investigation into OnePetro and search. I'll put the date in as well, so I think that was 1996. Click on search and you see that there's the ISOAP conference paper there, and we do have the PDF. Click on PDF and I've got the full text there. So that's one of the most common queries we get from the students using Compendex, lots and lots of conference papers in there. It's not the only way that you can connect through to the full text. So it's great for actually discovering what exists. It will tell you about the existence of things, but if you've got any problems connecting through to full text, copy and paste the title, go to OnePetro and the other resources listed under conferences here, and just see if we've got the full text available in any of those other links as well. So that's conference papers, and as I say, that will be the very latest information that you'll need to access from there. So I've mentioned journal articles, I've mentioned conference papers. These are the databases under Fine Marine Books and Journals that you can try first. Compendex and IEEE Explore are the best resources for marine technology and subsea engineering. Environmental management is also a really useful one for any kind of legislation and technical reports. So it follows various organisations, government publications, and you can keep up to date with particular pieces of legislation, and you can be notified if things have changed or if there have been any amendments to things as well. So have a look at those three from the very beginning. I'm just going to go back to find other relevant marine resources, and I'm just going to tell you now about standards here. So we've linked through to some print standards that we know you use all the time, all the way through your course. So you can click on these links, get through to the library record and see where you'll find them in print in the library. We also have the British Standards Online, which you can search online and just put the standard number in or the ISO number in and get the equivalent British standard through that. The other thing I was going to mention to you is theses and dissertations. So this is the grey literature that I mentioned earlier. There are two routes to discovering theses and dissertations. You can either concentrate on what's come out of Newcastle University specifically in your department, or you can look UK-wide and see what other departments, other universities are publishing on this. So if I go to Newcastle University e-theses, I can search by keyword, or I can click on communities and collections over here on the left, and I can browse down to the SAGE faculty and to your school. So I'll click on the School of Marine Science and Technology, and again I can search for keywords, I can look at authors, or I can just look by date. So if I click by date, it's going to list for me the very latest theses that have come out of your department. So you'll see there's one there on pipelines at the very top. Click on the title, it will give you the abstract, and it will link through to the full text PDF of the thesis there as well for you. So as I mentioned before, theses are really useful, even though this is PhD level work, for the literature review that's within them, so that you can just see, okay, someone's captured quite recently the top literature that's out there on this particular topic, so you can use that to follow up particular papers and particular authors that you want to take a look at. Occasionally you'll find a record that doesn't have the full text attached, That's where the students put an embargo on the file because they want to do something with it. Sometimes students want to turn the research into something like a book for publication, or they want to commercialise the research somehow, in which case they can choose to embargo the full text file. But you'll at least have the contact information to get in touch with them and follow up if you need to. Okay, so that's Newcastle University theses to see what your department is working on at the moment. I'm going to come back to my subject guide, and now I'm thinking what else is out there in the UK at other universities, and the service we use for that is called Ethos. So again, I can search for a particular person, particular keyword. I'm just going to look for theses on pipeline riser and search, and you can see it comes up with lots of links to theses that have come out. Lots of research seems to be done at Cranfield University on pipeline risers. So again, that might be somewhere that you go and follow up. You might visit Cranfield University department, and it looks like subsea engineers and marine technologists are very into sharing, because all of the list here has the full text attached as well. So wherever you see this little PDF document and the orange open padlock, that means that they've shared the full text open access. Occasionally you'll get one where you know of the existence of it, but they haven't shared the full text file, again for the same reasons, that they might be commercialising it. They might not have actually digitized it. It might be quite old now and it exists in print somewhere. So you can follow up with the individual university to see if they've got a print copy that you could access as well. So that's for theses, so you can get hold of those literature reviews that way. Okay. So I'm back on my subject guide. We've explored the books and journals. We're looking at the other types of resource available, and this top box is where you can start to find that kind of technical information, standards and conferences. I mentioned to you maps, so there's a box here all about the map collections that we have, and that's where you can register for Digimap. So if you haven't already, do click on that link, register for the service, and you can see what kind of coastal data you can get. Unfortunately, it is just UK waters rather than international waters, but if you are doing any research that's looking at the UK coastline, you can use that from there. Okay, so we're just going to look now at the business information. So if any of you are doing things on the shipping industry in general, or again you're looking for particular company information, you find data sets through all of these links here, various statistics available on the shipping industry as a whole, the use of raw materials, the sale of raw materials, so you can follow the links up there. I'm going to go over here to this market research box. Mintel looks at consumer markets. So if you're looking at how people are actually consuming fuels and trends on the consumption side, that's where you'll find that type of information. Passport covers consumers and industries. So if you want to look at both sides of the market, Passport is the resource to try there. Today I'm not going to go into everything because you'll get a chance to explore this in your own time. I'm just going to click here on company information, and you'll see that there are various different types of resource we have that cover different geographical areas. So depending on the company you want to focus in on, FAME is for UK, Amadeus for Europe, and Oriana for China, Singapore, Hong Kong, and India there. So you can click on those links and find company information. I'm going to go and look at Business Source Complete. So again, it links through to live research, and I can click on View Online to get through to this resource. So in Business Source Complete, it's going to give me journal articles, conference papers, and company information. So imagine I'm looking at the shipping industry. What I can do with my search, which Anne might have covered with you, is I can look for ship with a little asterisk, and that will find me ship, ships, shipping, shipbuilding, shipbreaking, any type of word ending starting with ship as the word stem. So it just means that rather than run several searches for singular and plural different types of ending, I can run one search and cover all bases at once. And then I'm looking for the sustainability of the shipping industry. So I'm just going to click on sustainability. And again, I can choose where I want that to appear, or I can look everywhere and just click on search. So it's found me 467 different results. So I can keep adding, using this plus sign, to build up a more complex search and get more detailed keywords in there and really pin down to something specific. I can also use all of these limits on the left-hand side to jump around. So I'm looking specifically at peer-reviewed journals. So these are the journals where the papers have been published on the basis they've been looked at by a whole team of academics and editors who've investigated the methods used, the results, and they've published them on the basis that they think they are sound. So it does have a caveat that some things can be peer-reviewed and still have big holes in them, big flaws, but generally it means that you'll get a smaller set of results to work from if you click on peer-reviewed journals. The other thing I can do is change the publication date. So if I'm looking for the latest information, I can just say I want to look in the last 2 years, for example, and get my number down again to something I could scroll through and work with. So 67 now. And again, I can click on Find at Newcastle University, and that will take me through to our e-journals and the full text if we have it. What's quite nice about Business Source Complete and the EBSCO articles is they've put in this plum metrics link. Has anybody heard of plum before? I don't know if you've seen this. This is an alternative way of assessing the impact of an article and the reach of an article. So these plum metrics capture social media usage and reference to particular articles. So you can see if research has been published and picked up by news outlets across the world. You can see how many times people have saved something to their own reference manager. So the higher the plum metrics, the more influential that particular paper. Obviously, sometimes papers are influential because they're particularly bad and easy to argue against. Other times it gives you an idea of what everybody else is reading, so what you should keep an eye on in your particular research discipline. Okay. So just have a look, Business Source Complete, to follow up from there. So that's journal articles from Business Source Complete. I'm now going to click on company information up at the top and imagine that I'm looking very specifically for information on BP. So I search on BP and I'll see the various companies with that name. If I click on BP International Limited, the UK version of the company, I can scroll down and get company data from here. So I can see the revenue, I can see the contacts, the executives, the industries, and I can see it was founded in 1909, and this is a subsidiary of a larger company. So I can go up to the top and I can find its parents. So you can see from an individual company you're working from how it fits into the grander scheme of companies, and I can click on the global ultimate parent of BP PLC, and again find all of that information, including all the subsidiaries. So if you're looking at a specific company internationally and you want to see who's its parent company, who it belongs to, you can search by company name, find all of that information in here. It lists the products that it produces, and so you can see the brand names that you may or may not know are actually belonging to that parent company as well. the thing that I quite like about the company information that comes from Business Source Premier is when you look at industry and the industries it's related to, you can click on these hyperlinks and you can get through to journal articles that are specifically about that industry. So for example, for petroleum, you can click through to news articles, academic journals, trade journal papers, all related to that industry, and start building up a picture of the research and the trade journal content relating to that. Okay. So that's business information that you can follow up from this box under other relevant marine resources. So we've gone through a variety of different types of resource here. As you're moving through all the different resources, if you find really useful stuff and you want to capture that and the searches that you've run, and you want to keep up to date, in any of the databases that I've shown you, if you look up at the top, you'll get an option either to register or to sign in or to create a personal account. This is what you need to do if you want to save your search and make it remember things about you as an individual and your particular research projects. So you can search and connect to full text without being logged in personally to each resource. But if you want to save and capture that data, register up at the top, create your own personal account. Usually your username is your email address and your Castle email address. Give yourself a password, and then next time you sign into this database, it will remember all the searches that you've run in the past, so you can very quickly rerun them. You can also set up alerts, so if you find the perfect search that gets you really relevant results, you can set up an alert so that every time something new is published which matches your keywords or it's by the particular researcher that you're following, you get alerted to it via email rather than you having to keep going back into the database and searching. So it's particularly important at master's level, when you've only got a year to kind of get everything together for your dissertation. Take some of the effort out of it by signing up to these alerts, and then you can get that information coming to you throughout the year instead. So that's what you can do for each of these different resources. So as I said, all of those demonstrations will be captured here on the recording. And in the workshops, you'll get a chance to actually go in and have a go with some of these databases. So I mentioned there keeping up to date. You've got your alerts and your feeds. You've got those plum metrics and other social media channels, other ways that you could follow particular papers, particular individuals. You might follow particular university departments that you know are publishing a lot in your research area. The other thing you can do is what we call citation searching. So as I mentioned, you can follow a paper and keep up to date that way. So I'm just going to show you how you would actually do that. So back on our subject guide, I'm clicking on Find Marine Books and Journals, and there are links here to the 3 resources that let you do citation searching. So those are Scopus, Web of Science, and good old Google Scholar as well, lets you do it too. So I'm just going to click on Scopus as an example. Again, view online and open up the resource. And if you haven't tried Scopus before, it's a great all-rounder database for all kinds of subject areas. Real strengths in science and technology, so do have a look in Scopus for journal articles too. I'm going to look for something that you've been asked to read, potentially, for one of your modules. And it's called Extrapolation of Propulsion Tests for Ships. And I know it's by the author Poltrock. So sometimes you're in a lecture, you've got access to a reading list, you're just talking to your supervisor, They mention the name of a paper to you and ask you to follow it up. You can search for the paper like this, put the title and the author in, find the paper in Scopus. So it's this one here. So it's from the journal Marine Technology. I can click on the link, see the abstract. If I want the full text, I'll just click on that Find at Newcastle University button. And I can see from this paper, which was published in 2001, I can view the references and follow up what came before the paper and how that informed the paper as it stands. I can move over to the right hand side of the screen and I can see who's cited it since it was published. So it's been cited 18 times, and if I click on that link there, it takes me to a results list and brings me right up to date. So I've got 2015 there. I can see that it's part of a literature review on prediction methods. So you can go from a very old paper and see how it's been used since, how that research has been taken and adapted. You can see as well whether something has been published in one particular discipline and then employed by another discipline as a method or a technology. And you can bring it right up to date and see who's talking about this now, who else should I keep an eye on from here. So as I mentioned, Scopus, Web of Science and Google Scholar all do it. When you search for the paper, you'll find that each of those different resources give you a slightly different number because they give you the number of citations from resources they actually index. So because they index different journal titles, you might have some overlap and then you might have some unique titles. Google Scholar usually gives you a much higher number, and that's because it not only indexes journal articles, but it includes book chapters and references from textbooks as well. So it's useful to follow those up from there. It also includes publicly accessible web pages and blogs, so it's a bit misleading potentially. Not all of the citations are from peer-reviewed research, but it's something that you can follow up and see who's using this material, who can I identify that's working in my research area. Okay. So that's keeping up to date. So you'll be signing in, creating those personal accounts, you'll be setting up alerts and saving your searches, and you'll be searching for particular papers to follow up who's using that research now. So this is just a little reminder that you'll be quite used to creating bibliographies and referring to books and journal articles, but some of the more weird and wonderful types of resource that I've linked you through to today, for example, if there's legislation that you're referring to, there are set conventions for how you refer to them, how that would look in your bibliography, and our referencing guide links you through to a book called Cite Them Right, and you've probably seen this with Anne yesterday. Cite Them Right contains examples of every type of thing you could possibly reference, including things like personal communications, podcasts, lectures that you've attended, things like that. It's got an example of how each of those things would look in your bibliography, so you can just match that and make sure that your referencing is right from there. I mentioned maps, but there might be other images that you want to use in your work, graphs and tables and images of particular boats or methods or tools and things. We have an images guide which tells you exactly how to attribute images in your work and where you'll find copyright cleared images to use. So often people will find images online, they'll snip them, they'll put them in their work when they're not really allowed to use that image. There are various image banks linked through on our guide where you'll find images that are free for you to use for educational use. So these are things that have particular licenses attached to them that allow you to use them in your work for the purposes of examination and educational use. So do follow that up from there. And if you're at all concerned about what can I use, what can't I use, if I've produced something, how do I protect my own ideas? If I'm working on a research project or I've created something, we've got our copyright guide as well, which gives you information both from how to reuse other people's material and how to protect your own intellectual property rights as well from there. So do follow that up after today if you need to. So this is just a reminder of how you get in touch with us. So we appreciate in these lectures, they're quite demonstration heavy. So we've got the workshops for you. So each of you should have been timetabled to come along to one workshop. All the workshop slots are exactly the same, so you don't need to come to more than one. It's just an opportunity for you to actually do some exercises based on the resources that we've shown you and ask any questions that you might have about your particular research question and using the resources. If after these lectures you get going with your research title, you decide on your dissertation title, and you think, I'm a bit lost, I'm not quite sure which resources I should try first. The library run a consultation service, so you can book a one-to-one appointment with either myself or one of the library liaison team, and we'll just take you through your particular question, help you produce a search plan, and take you through some very specific resources for you. So don't worry if after today you want to go through any of this again, you can get in touch with us, and please do ask for help if you need to. Okay? So that's everything for today. Do come along to the workshop, we'll practice, and you get a chance to ask any questions. But if there's anything you want to know before you go, please just see me at the end of today, okay? Thanks very much, everybody.